There is a difference between watching Jesus change someone else's life and watching him walk through your door. I have seen him command darkness. I have watched a man become free. I have watched water become wine. But none of that prepared me for the day Jesus came home with me. Because miracles are easy to admire till the miracle walks into your home family. It happened after the Sabbaths. We left the synagogue and walked towards my house. Andrew was with me, James and John Sue, and Jesus walked among us as though he had been part of our little company forever. I remember thinking about the synagogue, about the man, about the voice, about the authority with which Jesus had spoken. I had questions, so many questions. But before I could ask even one, I remembered something. My mother-in-law was sick, very sick. The joy of the Sabbath suddenly disappeared from my heart. You see, it is possible to witness somebody else's miracle and still carry your own burden home. When we reached the house, I knew immediately something was wrong. The door was open, the house was quiet. Too quiet. No cooking, no conversation, no familiar movements. There was the uncomfortable lethallings of a family waiting for something they cannot fix. I looked at Andrew. He knew we were inside. She was lying there burning with fever. I had seen fever before. This was different. She was weak, exhausted, unable to rise, and suddenly the man who had stood fearlessly before darkness in the snuggery was standing beside the bed, feeling completely helpless. Funny how quickly confidence disappears when suffering enters your own house. I remember sitting beside her, holding her hand, trying to make her comfortable. There are moments when a man discovers that he cannot fix his way out of a problem. He cannot hug his way out of it. He cannot work harder than this. He cannot command it to leave. All he can do is admit, I need help. And perhaps this is where faith truly begins. Not when we became strong enough to solve everything, but when we finally admit that we cannot solve everything. Andrew looked at me, then at Jesus. He didn't say anything he didn't need to. Jesus knew. That was becoming a pattern with him. Before we spoke, he seems to know before we actually noticed, before we understood our need. He was already moving towards it. He just walked towards the bed. I watched him closely. There was no crowd now. No synagogue, no situation, no astonished teachers. No one to impress, just a sick woman inside a fisherman's house. And somehow, that made the moment more stark, right? Because I was beginning to understand something about him. He did not need a crowd to be compassionate. He did not need a stage to be powerful. He was the same Jesus in the synagogue, and he my home. He reached for her hand, and then he raised her, and fever left, just like that. No struggle, no spectacle, no long prayer, no dramatic performance. One moment she was lying there, the next she was standing, and then she began sobbing. Oh, I remember staring at her, then at Jesus, then back at her. James looked at me, I looked at James. Neither of us knew what to say, and finally I whispered, "She was sick a moment ago." And Andrew answered softly, "I know." I looked at Jesus. He was already moving on, as though restoring a life was simply what he had come to do. That moment taught me something I would spend the rest of my life learning. Jesus did not heal her so that she could become a spectacle. She restored her so that she could return to life. That is the difference between a miracle and the one who performs it. Miracle makes people stare. Jesus makes people live again. And then before we could even sit down, someone knocked at the door. Then another. Then another. Word had traveled through Capernaum. The man from the synagogue was free, and Peter's house has become the place where desperate people were coming. By sunset, there would be so many houses at our house that I would begin to wonder whether my little house could possibly contain what Jesus had come to do. I thought I had invited Jesus, so I didn't understand that he had brought something much bigger with him. Oh, and the youth had already escaped. The man from the synagogue was free. Peter's mother-in-law had been healed, and suddenly everyone who knew somebody suffering came looking for him. At first it was one family, then another, then 5, and I looked down the street and saw a crowd. Not a curious crowd, a desperate one. People were carrying the sick on mats, children were crying, mothers were calling names, men were shouting for space. Someone was yelling, "Let us through." Another voice answered, "Please, my daughter." And somehow through all that noise, Jesus remained calm. I remember thinking, where did all these people come from? Then another group appeared at the end of the street, and another. The whole town seemed to be moving towards us. Capernaum had discovered where hope was standing. I've seen Jesus teach. I've seen him confront darkness. I'd watch him heal one person. But that night I saw something different. I saw him face suffering one person at a time. A man who could barely walk was brought forward. Jesus touched him. He stood. A woman whose body had been weakened by sickness was carried towards him. He reached for her. She rose. A child was brought in the arms of a mother. Jesus laid his hands upon the child. The mother began to weep, not because her child was dying, but because she suddenly realized she wasn't. I stood there, watching miracle after miracle, and something strange happened inside me. The more people Jesus healed, the less impressed I became by the miracle, and the more amazed I became by his compassion. Because Jesus never looked at a crowd as a crowd. He looked at the faces, the names, the families, the stories, the pain. He saw what everybody else saw, and then he saw more. At one point I tried to help organize the people. I shouted one at a time. Nobody listened. Someone pushed past me. Another man grabbed my robe. "Please, my brother." I turned. "Where's he?" The man pointed. The others were carrying a paralyzed man towards us. I looked at the crowd, then at Jesus, then at the man, and suddenly I understood something. There would never be enough room for everybody's desperation, but there was enough room for Jesus. Then the atmosphere changed. A man suddenly began screaming, not crying, screaming. The sound caught through the crowd. People stumbled backward. A woman grabbed a child. The man's body twisted violently, his eyes fixed on Jesus, and the voice that came from him was not his own. They knew him. The darkness knew him. It recognized what we were only beginning to recognize: the Son of God. Jesus stepped toward him. The crowd stepped back. I remember thinking, not again? But Jesus never stepped back. He commanded the demons to leave, and they obey again and again and again. That night, darkness learned what the synagogue had already discovered. It could shout, but it could not stay. Hours passed, the moon crossed the sky, the cloud kept coming, and Jesus kept giving. I don't know how many he yielded. I only remember the faces, the bent back becoming straight, the fever becoming strong, the tormented becoming peaceful, the hopeless beginning to hope, and every time someone left healed, another person stepped forward. It seems as though the whole world had decided that night to knock at our door. I remember one old man. He had been waiting for hours. When his turn finally came, he didn't ask for money, didn't ask for food. He simply looked at Jesus and said, "I have been sick for a very long time." His voice broke. Jesus looked at him. That was all. And somehow the man's fear disappeared. I watched him straighten. He began to cry. Then he laughed. A grown man laughing like a child. I thought, how many people have forgotten what joy felt like? Jesus seemed to know. The night became morning before we realized it. The crowd slowly stained. The shouting became whispers. The whispers became silence. And finally Capernaum slept. I was exhausted. My feet hot. My clothes smelled of dust and sweat. I had never known a day like it. I looked at Jesus. It looked tired too, but peaceful. I thought at last, perhaps now he would rest. Perhaps now he would stay. Perhaps Capernaum had become home. I was wrong. Before sunrise I woke. Something felt strong. Jesus was gone. I searched the house. Nothing. I stepped outside. Andrew was already awake. Where is he? He shook his head. James came running. He's not here. John followed. We searched the street, the courtyard, the shoreline. Nothing. The man who had spent the entire night giving himself to horrors has disappeared before dawn. We began searching. down one road, then another. The sun began climbing over the hills. I was becoming frustrated. How could these appear like that? We finally found him, far outside the town, alone on a quiet hill, praying, not sleeping, not recovering, praying. I stood at a distance and watched him. After everything that had happened, he had gone looking for silence. But even before I could speak, I heard the voices behind us. They were calling his name. Jesus, Rabbi, where are you? The people are looking for you. Simon Peter, the fisherman. I found the teacher, but I still didn't understand him. I stepped forward. Everyone is looking for you. Jesus turned. He looked towards Capernaum, then towards the road ahead, and he said, "Let us go somewhere else, to the nearby villages, so I can preach there also. That is why I have come." I remember that moment, because I finally understood something. Capernaum wanted to keep him. The sick needed him, the crowds loved him. We wanted him there. Even I wanted him there. But Jesus would not allow yesterday's success to become tomorrow's prison. He had healed the sick, but he had not come merely to be known as a healer. He had cast out demons, but he had not come merely to become famous. He had come to proclaim the kingdom of God, and nothing, not crowds, not applause, not even legitimate needs, would make him abandon his Father's purpose. Jesus started walking. We followed. Behind us, Capernaum was waking up. People were opening doors, looking for him, calling his name. Some were running towards us. Others stood watching from their rooftops. I turned around. The town was disappearing behind us. The house, the synagogue, the people, the miracles, all of it. I looked at Jesus. He didn't turn back. Something inside me broke open. Because that was the morning I began to understand that following Jesus was not about staying where he was celebrated. It was about going where he was sent. We walked faster. The sun climbed higher. The road stretched before us. Andrew walked beside me. James and John followed. Philip was already asking where we were going. And Nathaniel, well, Natalie was probably wondering why any sensible fisherman would leave a town where people were practically begging him to stay. I almost agreed with him. Then I looked ahead. Jesus was walking towards the next village, towards the next crowd, towards the next broken people, towards the next soul that had never heard him. And suddenly I understood the miracles were not the destination. They were the signs pointing to him. The healing was not the mission. He was the mission. That day I had watched Jesus enter my home. I had watched him raise my family from sickness. I had watched him turn a street full of desperation into a road full of hope. But the greatest thing he healed that day was something inside me. My idea of what success meant. I thought success was when people gathered around you. Jesus showed me sometimes success is knowing when to walk away. I thought power meant making people follow you. Jesus showed me true authority meant being able to leave when your Father says, "Oh." I thought the greatest miracle was what happened to the people we touched. Years later I realized the greatest miracle was what happened to those of us who watched him. Because we didn't just see the things become well. We saw a man who could have stayed, chose obedience instead. That morning, I followed him out of Capernaum. I didn't know where the road would lead. I didn't know how many villages were visited. I didn't know how many people would hate him. I didn't know how many would worship him. I didn't know that one day I would watch him die. I certainly didn't know that one day he would ask me to carry his message to the ends of the earth. I only knew one thing. He was walking away, and I couldn't stay behind. So I picked up my feet and followed. And that was the beginning of the road I would never be able to leave.